gotta come down to Asia to find the future of motor transportation, specifically on motorbikes. For visiting China and Vietnam over here, this is the lively streets of Hanoi. Everyone here is on Honda motorbikes, the gas version, but in China, it's the E-Revolution over there. For $100 USD, China, you can get e-bikes that range about 20 miles per hour at every single vendor on Taobao and other online vendor sites. In the States and many other Western countries, we have a lot to catch up on. If you're deciding on an e-bike, it comes down to 4 categories. The infrastructure. The infrastructure needs to be there to support the e-bike or the e-revolution. The adoption and plug 220 volts, the charger availability is for the scooters. Here in Vietnam, there's not much electricity, plug-ins, there's just gas everywhere. There's long ranges that everyone's going. So in China, on the other hand, you can see plugs in very short distances and probably an all ban on certain types of motorbike different styles. For example, in China, you won't see e-scooters, no one standing. You won't see motorcycles because they go too fast. The federal ban that we have is 20 miles per hour for Class 2 e-bike vehicles. Class 3 goes higher than that. Class 3 is pretty much banned in China because of all the motor accidents and even standing. The second factor supporting it is cost. Look up your local subsidies in your stores, vendors, or even the government. For $99 you can get those e-bikes. But these Hondas cost about $1,000 USD equivalent, according to our tour guide. And riding them, it's an event in itself. If you're looking in the West for some $99 deals and you think that's impossible, we'll get there. Slowly, the same e-scooters, if you want to do China route, are coming down to around the $300, $350 price range. And I expect that to go fuller as the battery technology, the lithium batteries get older. Reliability for these Honda scooters in Vietnam and traveling everywhere, there's motorbike repair shops, Honda stores everywhere. You don't have to do a touch of maintenance on these if you don't want to, because there's stores and they're very fairly priced that will pump up your tire, check on your brakes, check your carburetor if you were talking the gas version. And in China, on every corner, there's all the different gears just for flat tires or just making sure your battery's charged, or it's making what maintenance really is there for those types of vehicles. And it's been a stretch to really see all the different types of styles. And then the fourth one is simply terrain. One major advantage, depending on what your use case is for all these e-scooters, is how flat everything's been in both these countries so far. And I imagine that where e-bike adoption and motorbike adoption are high, the weather and the hill and the terrain really count for it. So in the States, where we are in Washington, it's a ton of rain. It's sleety, it's snowy sometimes, it's hills galore, and the terrain itself, people aren't used to having these small motorbikes, fast motorcycles on the road. But over here, this is everyday life. It's the lifeblood and veins for both countries, where we were in Tianjin, China, Hanoi over here, and then further in Saigon. So, to sum up, your e-bike purchase is going to really come down to those 4 factors. And my recommendation is, if you want something that's right at the intersection of cost and reliability, well, it really comes down to parts availability and your willingness to put in a little bit of elbow grease into repairing it. The Segway brand and their 9-bot scooters is a brand that's been super reliable, people getting a ton of mileage on them. And even further, now those parts are sourced and easily available on China's supplier sites like AliExpress and Temu. So that's where you have an intersection of a very reliable brand that goes a lot of miles, designed by some other companies that weren't based in China, but you have the parts availability. So we're looking for that type of intersection. And number 2, these Honda ones, well, Honda's come out with their mini compact e-scooters, and they've shown that they have a dominance in markets like this where they're predominantly motorbike friendly. So I think that's the sweet spot in terms of cost, reliability, and availability. It's going to take some time for us to mature there. But for your early adopters, and I'd like to argue we're still in the early adopter phase, because for something that's dealer approved, with all the warranties and all the assurances, you're going to have to find dealers like Fluid Free Ride or local e-bike vendors. So you can do a quick search on Google Maps for the local e-bike vendors in your area, find some special brand promotions, and build a relationship with your supplier who will help take care of those things for you. Many times for e-bikes, it comes down to the motor hub, which is usually a DC brushless motor hub, the reliability of the battery and the BMS. In China, there were like hundreds of thousands of e-bikes. None of them were exploding because the BMS in there had just become that mature product. Make sure they don't get charged that much. And their infrastructure supports 220 volts with thinner wire gauges. So for us, it's going to be way different with how we approach these. Early adopter, bigger wheels, because we have longer roads, wider roads. If people aren't used to us driving, we're going to have to go a little bit faster unless you're going off terrain. So it really comes down to where is your willingness to try out these new parts. It's usually a controller, but if you're not willing to do it, we'll pay more for dealers. Well, that's all for now. Check out some footage as we go ahead and travel these different countries, and check out some of these pics for my favorite scooters. Choose the ones that are very reliable and make it mainstream. Think like your Toyota Camrys or Honda Civics that go global and have this reputation for just being lasting forever. It's going to happen with the e-bike and e-scooter industry, and we'll find out what those are pretty soon. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Let's get on travel. Bye, everyone.